So now finally is the fourth method, and that fourth method is going to be using the quadratic formula. Now, the quadratic formula says if you're given something that looks like ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, then x, no matter what, is going to be equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, if you had a particularly outgoing algebra teacher in high school, he or she may have come up with a song to help you remember this. I will not sing it here. But if you haven't seen this before, this is definitely something you want to memorize. If you have seen it before, just make sure that you remember it correctly and you got everything in the right place. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to use the quadratic formula to solve a variety of problems. So we'll come down here and go to town. So let's try this one. Now the thing with the quadratic equation is you can use the quadratic formula is you can use it to solve anything. So I'm still going to say you should always try to factor it. You should always try to use the square root method. I'm pretty sure you're never going to use completing the square again if you can avoid it. You're probably going to jump straight to the quadratic equation, and that's fine. I'm just saying, if you have the opportunity to try to factor it, solve it that way because it's going to be the easiest. And when we're talking about solving by the square root method, we showed that there is definitely some advantages to solving it that way. It can be a lot faster. Nonetheless, quadratic equation formula is definitely something you want to do. So make sure, and I always write out the general form on top, so it makes it really, really clear what's going to line up. So in this case, you can see that A lines up with 2, B lines up with -6, and C lines up with 1. Now, anytime you use the quadratic formula, you want to write it out first. Because if you just try to start out by substituting stuff in, you're much more likely to make a mistake. So the slower you can go, the less likely you are to do something goofy. The other thing you want to make sure you tell yourself is to use parentheses. Anytime, especially if you have a negative in one of your A, B's, or C's like that, not working, A, B's, or C's like that, you definitely want to use parentheses. The reason for that's going to become pretty obvious right off the bat. So say we've got negative B. B is -6. So this negative sign here is part of the formula. This negative sign here is part of this -6. So you need both of them. Plus or minus the square root of B is again -6, B squared minus 4 times A, which is 2, C, which is 1, all over 2 times A, which is 2. Okay, so we've got negative and -6 is 6, plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 8 over 4. So we've got 6 plus or minus. So this becomes the square root of 36 minus 8 is 28. Yeah, 28 over 4. So we take a look, we say, okay, well the square root of 28 is 4 times 7. So root 4 times root 7 is 2 root 7. So I've got 6 plus or minus 2 square root of 7 over 4. Okay, so I've got a couple of options. Probably a good way to do this is to say, all right, I can factor a 2 out of the top. The plus or minus just kind of hangs out like that. I can factor a 2 out. Now since I can factor it out, now that means that I can cross it out. So I've got 3 plus or minus square root of 7 over 2. So my two solutions are 3 plus square root of 7 over 2 or 3 minus square root of 7 over 2. So that's pretty awesome. Okay. Computer is crazy. All right, so let's try something kind of similar. Let's try this one that we did earlier. So actually we haven't done this one before. Let's do this one. 3x squared minus 2x plus 4 equals 0. So again, we're going to go and copy the standard form on top. So we'll have a equals 3, b equals negative 2, and c equals 4. So x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so then we've got negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Okay, so we've got negative 2, positive 2, plus or minus the square root of 4 minus, what's that? That's 16 times 3, so that's 48. 4 minus 48 all over 6. So we've got 2 plus or minus square root of negative 44 all over 6. Square root of 40, ooh, we got a negative sign and a square root. So do we panic? No, we do not panic. We're going to rewrite this as 2 plus or minus, we pull the square negative out of the square root and make it an I. And got square root of 44 all over 6. So root 44 is the same thing as root 4 times 11. Root 4 times root 11, so that's 2 root 11. So I've got 2 plus or minus I. Now I'm replacing the square root of 44 with 2 square root of 11. So things are just in a little bit of a funky order, and that's okay. Divided by 6. Now, I can actually factor a 2 out of the top if I want to, and I've got a 1 left there. Plus or minus I square root of 11 all over 6. Now, since I'm able to factor it out, that means that I can cross it out. And I've got 1 plus or minus I square root of 11 over 3. So my options are, well, I need to write this in the a plus bi format, but we'll just write them out separately. I've got 1 plus I root of 11 over 3, 1 minus I root of 11 over 3. But remember, we want complex answers to be in the form a plus bi, so the I term kind of needs to be off by itself. So I've got 1/3 plus square root of 11 over 3 I, and then 1/3 minus square root of 11 over 3 I. Okay. And that should be more than sufficient to make that work. So I want to try one more example. This last example is going to be this one. Say we've got 9x squared minus 6x plus 1 equals 0. Won't factor, can't use the square thing, square root method, so now I know all the examples we've done have negative signs here. That's not actually how it always works, so you know, you just kind of gotta mess with it. In fact, let's make it a plus sign just so that you know it can be. Okay, so this means now that a equals 9, b equals 6, and c equals 1. So x equals, we always write out the quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Alrighty, so we've got negative 6 plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4a AC all over 2A. Now notice I'm not getting too bent out of shape about parentheses right now, and that's because everything's positive. So the only time I care big time about parentheses is when things can be negative. So let's do this. Let's do -6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 4 times 9 is 36. Oh, something's going to happen. All over 18. -6 plus or minus 36 minus 36 is 0 over 18. Square root of 0 is 0 over 18. -6 plus 0 is -6. -6 minus 0 is -6. So that goes away. -6 over 18 gives me -1/3. So something happened here, right? Normally I have 2 answers, but this time I had 1 answer. I had 1 answer because this thing under here, oops, you can't see that. This thing under here equals 0. So I only had 1 answer. Okay, so we're going to talk about that in just a second here, but this is what you kind of need to be aware of, is that this can happen. So just do as many of these as you can stand, honestly, and get really, really good at it so that you can make waves and impress people.